Look.
She's your girl's hot as shit. In the purple.
Whoa.
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, the Donald has scored.
Whoa.
Oh, my man. Wait, you gotta look at me when you get out of your legs.
Sets this up.
That is very
You give me the thumbs
Look
up.
at you. You are a pig.
Thumbs up. You gotta get the thumbs up. Can't be too happy.
else off first? Yeah, let me.
It's very
You
funny.
gotta give me the thumbs up.
All right, you and I will walk in.
Yep, so we have it open, get the cabinet open.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah. So I have it closed and then,
Maybe it's a different one.
Better not be the publicist. No, it's her. It's
Yeah, that's her, with the gold. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
whatever you want.
Grab them by the I can do anything.
Look at those legs. All I can see is the legs.
No, it looks good.
Come on, shorty.
Oh, nice legs, huh?
Oof, get out of the way, honey. Oh, that's good legs. Go ahead.
Hello, how are you? Hi.
Mr. Trump, how
nice
are
seeing
you?
you.
Pleasure to
Terrific.
meet you.
Terrific. You know Billy Bush?
How are you?
Nice to see you. How you doing,
Very
Ariane?
good.
I'm doing very well, thank you. Are you ready to be a soap star?
We're ready. Let's go. Make me a soap star.
Since the inauguration of Donald Trump as President of the United States, his personal stance on women was revealed and highlighted by The Washington Post. This sparked global outrage, but more especially for American women that such a vulgar man would represent their nation as the president. The debate on women's position in the worldly system has since become a hot topic, more specifically the adverse environment that women are subjugated to, and the hidden but open world, which incubates a hostile reality for women that has been subverted for hundreds of years, crafted and conceived as a result of compartmentalization of organized beliefs. For the first time in 2017, this has become mainstream media news, to the level where political groups and departments of legislation have taken disciplinary measures to enforce change by law and compulsory action. Within the midst of these issues were threats to factors women care about, including protections for children, civil rights and the environment. Then came the explosive epidemic of reports of sexual harassment and assault, exposing just how pervasive this problem is for women in all sectors of society. Powerful men are being held accountable in cases of sexual harassment and assault. The world is watching as some of the most powerful and well-known male public figures topple from their pedestals as they face allegations of abusive behavior. Nearly all are swiftly losing their jobs and their platforms, and facing harsh public backlash. Corporations and media entities are issuing strong statements and demonstrating zero tolerance for sexual misconduct, and politicians accused of abuse are also being pushed to resign. In response to these attempts to diminish power and silence voices, women are harnessing their outrage. They are more engaged, energized and resolute than ever. Issues that were long ignored are finally coming to the surface, and women are beginning to speak up and use their voices and influence to demand real change.
On imbalance of power and abuse of power.
Time's up. The clock has stopped ticking.
That was her way of saying 1, 2, 3, time's up!
They got on board pretty fast with Time's Up.
Time's up on the silence that so many folks have felt they've had to be in for far too long.
Well, good evening. That doesn't feel like enough, does it? It's just great evening. Maybe that's better. UN Secretary General, Executive Director Pumzile, thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am tremendously honored to be UN Women's Advocate for political participation and leadership. I am proud to be a woman and a feminist.
I'm a he for she because I have an awareness. I can't let my daughters or my wife suffer because I didn't do my job. It starts with me.
not okay.
No, no, stop, no. No, stop.
A lot of the women with hashtag Time's Up are standing up for equality, to be treated equally, and for sexual harassment. And I stand here today in black doing the same from far away. And it's the same thing with here in Puerto Rico. We want to be treated equally.
As hashtag #MeToo becomes the story of the year, many men are freshly reflecting on their own and their colleagues' behavior, and our society appears to be in the beginning of a long overdue national conversation about the abuse of power and privilege, the socialization of men and boys, the objectification of women, and a culture of toxic masculinity. The elite play a dangerous game, and in order to get back on track with their agenda, they must sacrifice one of their tentacles to come out of this chaos. This strikes as a great victory for humanity, as sexual perversion by people of positions of power has been named and shamed, which has caused a ripple effect throughout all industries, forcing the sexual perverts in power to step back and open more doors to both men and women without them being subject to this level of harassment again. As the media reports on the movement of rights and bringing down sexual corruption, what the mainstream media doesn't do is link the likes of Pizzagate with the reason why we have men like Harvey Weinstein being able to sexual harass women so publicly for 25 years. Because if they did, it would expose an agenda that most of the population would be too frightened to believe was going on and done by everyday household names.
And I hope he gets back in touch, and I hope he does, and I hope it makes it into the book, because whatever advice he's taking to hold out for this sympathetic mainstream media interview, to hold out for the Charlie Rose or whatever, it isn't coming. It isn't coming because the people he wants to go for and the subject he wants to talk about, they are not palatable. People don't want to hear about it. They're not ready for Corey Feldman. They're okay for women talking about bad men, but they do not want to hear about the gay child rape stuff. They don't want to know. And so he is the oddball weirdo throwing out allegations that they must discredit because what's the alternative? Opening a can of worms that will consume Hollywood, consume the entire entertainment industry. The whole place will be in smoldering ruins if Corey Feldman's allegations are properly investigated because of what it will surface elsewhere. And they're not ready for that. They don't want to do that. They want to do anything but that. In fact, you can see, if you look carefully in the left-wing coverage of this, you can see the circumscription begin to happen. They want to limit this to bad men attacking innocent women, female victims, and let's leave the subject there. The movement is not general sexual assault. It is women versus men. It is, it is gender. It's nothing else. There's nothing about race, nothing about homosexuality, nothing about child, whatever. They are trying to contain the fallout from Weinstein, and they can't. It's not going to work. It isn't going to happen. But the reason I think that they're so aggressively against Corey Feldman speaking out, naming names, and letting him have his say in the sort of sympathetic environment that would normally be provided to abuse victims or to people who were ready to speak up about their abusers or about things that happened to them when they were children, particularly in an industry everyone's fascinated by, movies and TV. They're not giving him the platform for that reason, I think. And by the way, I'm fascinated by this, and we're going to talk about this on so many future shows because it's my new favorite subject. The resurgence of witchcraft.
Oh, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
Yeah.
The resurgence of witchcraft is lefties finding God. Because they've realized that they need something more than this narrow monochromatic prism through which they view the world. Is it racist? Is it sexist? Is it homophobic? There's something more to life than that. And they don't know what it is because for 2 generations, that's all they've been interested in. So they're now looking for something more. And when they reach for something more, they reach for brands and personalities like Oprah. And there's a book by Catherine Lofton, Gospel of an Icon, about Oprah Winfrey. And there was a lot of good literature about Oprah Winfrey in the late 90s and early 2000s that described how her shows are structured like the Eucharist.
Not only do we see politicians, celebrities and powerful men being exposed for sexual misconduct, but very quietly there have been reports on countless of horror stories of human trafficking being exposed and run by rich men from Wall Street and private hedge funds owners, who are being detained and arrested in the hundreds. What must be understood is that most of these companies and private shareholders who invest in the rat race of the Western world are the richest of men, and these are the Saudi Arabs and princes. As Wall Street bankers are being arrested in numbers for sexual deviance, powerful Saudi princes have too been arrested by their own, and their holds on companies and monopolies begins to crumble, and so do the brokers in Wall Street who look after their accounts.
By denouncing their own people, throwing them under the bus, making mere allegations like judge, jury, and executioner, and get rid of their own people. What were they doing it for? Well, they knew that folks like John Conyers and Al Franken and Harvey Weinstein, they were all dead weight. They all had enemies in the power structure that wanted to get rid of them. Kevin Spacey, they believed, his career had basically peaked. Everybody knew, and now it was time to start burning them, have the media give it attention, instead of covering it up. They've already tried race war. They've already tried culture war. They've already tried all these other hoaxes to derail the economy, to derail what we're doing. So they're having people fall on their swords in highly Democrat districts where Al Franken won by 1.5 million votes, where John Conyers wins by something like 25%. All of these are key areas where they just get rid of some deadwood in a safe district, and then bring their people in the next election, and then look like they're strong, look like they're good, look like they're doing the right thing. And that is exactly what they're doing. And remember, here's the key. Here's the big enchilada for the whole thing that should outrage anybody that's a thinking person. They covered up Weinstein for 25 years. They covered up Spacey. They covered up Conyers. They covered up Franken. They covered up with the big slush fund that they say now is 90% Democrat in Congress, paying out not 18 million like they first said. Now they're reporting it's hundreds of millions because there's multiple slush funds from every Congress every 2 years. So there's a bunch of payouts, a bunch of slush funds, a bunch of hush money, and it's mainly Democrats. And you got Bill Clinton and all his rapes he's settled and all the other reports, and flying around on Alita Express with Harvey Weinstein, with Kevin Spacey, with all of these individuals, Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, and it's all coming out. Just like Russia was going to come out. Just like the pedophilia was going to come out. Because you got Bill Clinton on the plane going dozens of times to the island and going to Sheik's Islands on the plane with 10-year-old girls, folks. 10-year-old girls, as young as 10. Most of them about 14. And they pose with photos with them. Bill Clinton, Epstein, all of them with little girls. And you've got Spacey on board, and you know what they got for him. Just like they get Sprite and Coca-Cola and pizzas or, you know, whatever's in the refrigerator. Hey, there's little kids because we're the elite and we get the caviar we want. New York Post, the slave scandal that exposed pedophile billionaire Jeffrey Epstein. The slave scandal. The sex slave scandal. Sex slave, sex slave. And now you've got all these big Soros hedge fund managers busted running sex slavery of women and little girls. Dungeons. Dungeons. This is who's been running our country. What are they going to do? What are they going to do?
The arrest of one of the world's wealthiest men, Saudi Arabia's Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, once named the Arabian Warren Buffett by Time magazine, has cast a spotlight on his vast investment holdings, which include Citigroup, Apple, Twitter and Lyft. His arrest in Saudi Arabia on Saturday night was part of a sweeping anti-corruption crackdown that included detaining 10 other Saudi princes, 4 country ministers and dozens of other ministers. seen as a move by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to tighten his grip on power. Prince Al Walid, 62, ranked 45th in Forbes magazine's 2017 list of the world's richest billionaires and has a current estimated net worth of $17.2 billion. His global holdings include stakes in companies stretching from the Middle East to Europe to the US through his investment firm Kingdom Holding Company. His investments also include the Plaza. The high-profile arrest raised concerns about the future of his business empire, as well as the political stability of Saudi Arabia, a key player in the world's energy markets. It also sparked speculation on the future of the wealthy prince's investment holdings. Shares of Kingdom Holding fell nearly 8% Sunday in Saudi Arabia. Currently, it is too soon to tell what would become of the prince's U.S. stock holdings if he were to lose control over them. Longer term, however, if Prince Al Walid's portfolio and investment company are taken over by Saudi authorities, it would create a new dynamic on Wall Street, as companies whose shares are currently owned by the prince would have to deal with new investors controlling those large stakes.
Also during that day, Saad al-Hariri signed the assignment of a new Lebanese ambassador to Syria. That was a shocker for me, I'll be very honest with you, because he was very vocal about not doing that, but he then ended up doing it. So just after that, and I'm not saying it's linked, I'm just saying what happened. After that, he was summoned directly back to Saudi Arabia. That is 24 hours after he returned to Lebanon. He was summoned with a degree of urgency. So he left Lebanon urgently, and he only was allowed to have a few number, which are counted on one hand, of bodyguards. That's how urgent that was. So he left Lebanon. I am pretty sure he had no idea what he was going or putting himself into, but he left on the matter of urgency. And on Saturday, approximately midday, we started hearing about breaking news saying that Saad al-Hariri, the Prime Minister of Lebanon, has resigned in a recorded video from Saudi Arabia on the channel, on the official channel of Al Saud, which is Al Arabiya channel. At first we thought it was a joke, to be honest, because we were shocked, because there was no evidence that something was wrong with the government. There was no evidence, whether from him or from his rivals for that matter, that there was something going on politically speaking inside of Lebanon that would hint to a resignation. Not at all, and we will talk about that as well. But what happened after that is what's much more interesting. The resignation of Saad al-Hariri was I remember very well, because I was prepared to go out and my day was wrecked because I had to go to work, back to work. So it was a Saturday, it was around 1 p.m. Beirut time, and we heard that, and just 2 hours later, breaking news about the arrest and the detention of 11 very important princes and more than 20 senior figures that were arrested by Mohammed bin Salman, on the orders of Mohammed bin Salman. And later on, an hour later, it was broadcasted, or it was announced that, of course, via Twitter. All of this is via Twitter, because we cannot get anything from any media channel. So via Twitter, it was announced that the Ritz-Carlton is actually the new prison. And we knew that only because of the memo that was sent out by the Ritz-Carlton to the actual guests there, asking them politely to leave. So there we go. It was, and the memo said that it was a matter of national security and an urgent matter by the government, that we need you and we ask of you to leave. So we're talking about a 5 or maybe 7 class star hotel that is very, very luxurious, that actually hosted the Donald Trump summit that happened, I think it was 2 months or so ago, but it was midsummer. And so it's that, and it's the same hotel. We'll talk about that too. It's the same hotel that Mohammed bin Salman had hosted the convention about technology. We all heard about Sophia, the robot who was given the Saudi nationality, and we heard about the new city, the new intelligent city that bin Salman wants to build, which is Neom. That it was hosted just days before in that hotel, in the Ritz-Carlton. And we started linking the manner that bin Salman was able to arrest all of these princes at once, meaning that they were in the country all together because of that convention. He did that convention to bring all the local and international and regional investors into the country to come watch what the new investments in Saudi Arabia for his 2030 plan is for this new Niyam city, smart city, which, by the way, Al-Walid bin Talal refused to invest in, which is also a big question mark. Why would he refuse? So that happened. 2 days later, everybody goes back to the Ritz-Carlton, but as detainees, which is shocking. Now, after that, we started hearing about deaths, about fire, exchange of fire. We had Fahd bin Abdullah dying. When Fahd bin Abdullah, I'd like to remind everyone, because I'm saying a lot of names and it might be a bit complicated for people who don't know about the royal family. I still sometimes confuse them. But the thing is, we know very much Fahd bin Abdullah because he is Saad al-Hariri's best friend since they were very young. They used to go to the pubs together. They used to go to everywhere around the world with the yacht and, you know, the luxurious lives of the prince. He was there with him. And every investment that Saad al-Hariri has made, Fahd bin Abdullah was part of that investment. So Fahd bin Abdullah was about to get detained, and there was exchange of fire at the entrance of his gate at the palace where he got shot. He went to the hospital. 2 days later, he's dead. He's announced dead. There you go. And then later on, you have the helicopter that was downed at the border area between Saudi Arabia and Yemen, which had on it a prince and several other ministerial and senior figures in the area of Asir. And the area of Asir is the area bordering Yemen. It's on the southern part of Saudi Arabia. A downing of a plane. Exact next day, which was yesterday, Haaretz issues a huge report. The Israeli Haaretz newspaper issues a huge report and says it was Saudi war jets that downed that helicopter because that prince was trying to flee the country. So if that's not a purge, I don't know what we can call it. These princes were offered to close all their corruption files in return for their full allegiance to Mohammed bin Salman becoming the crown, the king of Saudi Arabia, and they all refused, especially Metoo, Walid bin Talal, and a third one who I can't get to memorize his name because it's too long. So these three main princes refused, the others are refusing, the senior figures, businessmen and officials refusing, and because of that, a new wave of arresting and detentions have taken place over the past few hours.